Did you ever have to call in emergency assistance as a result of a stunt going awry?
I mean, there was one time that a fire got out of hand in Long Beach.
Ooh.
And it was just one of those things. If I got out of hand, it scorched the building next to it.
Things that are worth your attention.
I'm just so grateful that you joined us.
It is a pleasure.
Welcome to Media Path. I'm Louise Palanker.
And I'm Fritz Coleman.
Our guest today has carved a path from child actor to Emergency to Roadhouse to Another 48 Hours to the new Paul Thomas Anderson film, One Battle After Another. If your inner dialogue is screaming, it's Kevin Tighe. That is one on the board for your inner dialogue. Kevin joins us shortly. And Susie Singer Carter, with her excellent film, is coming to join us and tell us all about what happened with her mother. The film is called No Country for Old People. You need to see this interview. You need to hear what we have to say. But first, Fritz, what are you recommending?
All right,
for the
well,
class?
I promised myself I would not read any more Trump books. I went down this rabbit hole. Every single investigative piece about the Trump administration, I felt obligated as an American and as a sick human being to consume. And I fell off the wagon. I couldn't help it. And I just finished Injustice, which is the new book by Carol Leonnig and Aaron Davis. They also wrote A Very Stable Genius and I Alone Can Fix It. And she did a book about the Secret Service called Zero Fail. Carol was an investigative reporter for the Washington Post for many years. Now she's the senior investigative correspondent for MS Now. She's a Pulitzer Prize winner. This book is about the subversion of the justice system by the Trump administration, Trump 1 and Trump 2. She digs into the leadership of AG Merrick Garland, the Jack Smith investigation, the Mar-a-Lago documents case, why those investigations and others ultimately went nowhere. And it's really interesting. The two main reasons were Merrick Garland was always skittish about prosecuting the Trump administration because he had a huge fear of coming off as too political. People were on his back about that. Number two, the investigators themselves within the Department of Justice were also too cautious because a president had never been investigated to this extent. And quite frankly, they were afraid for their jobs. That all led to the weakening of the Justice Department and the rule of law. Basically, fear hamstrung the documents case and the rest of the Jack Smith investigations. Again, it wasn't a gutless fear. It was going down a rabbit hole in Uncharted. Rabbit Hole is a different movie. It's a rental. It was fear of making mistakes, which would wield a lot of damage. You're really impressed by Carol Leonig's confidential resources, an amazing behind-the-scenes amount of detail. Injustice, Carol Leonnig and Aaron Davis. You will be left with a question, how long is it going to take the Justice Department to recover from this debacle once it's all over?
I think we're all asking ourselves, how long is it going to take everything to recover? Because this has just been a wrecking ball.
Yep.
All right, left turn. I can remember the moment as a small child, Fritz, I was told there was a singer named Paul Anka. Our last name is Palanker. So I thought that was just way too similar. And I said, are you sure his first name is Paul? Because what are the odds? So this Palanker began picking up Paul Anka records, learning that Donny Osmond's hits, Puppy Love, Put Your Head on My Shoulder, and Lonely Boy were first recorded and written by Paul Anka. The key to musical longevity is being a songwriter. Paul Anka wrote It Doesn't Matter Anymore for Buddy Holly, My Way for Frank Sinatra, She's a Lady for Tom Jones, The Times of Your Life for the Kodak commercial, The Tonight Show theme, and so much more. As a teen, I was very into his deep album cuts, and I would see him live at Kleinhans Music Hall and Melody Fair in Buffalo, New York. So I eagerly dove into this new film, Paul Anka, His Way. It's on HBO. Paul Anka evolved with each decade. It felt very natural watching him over the years, but in retrospect, watching it through the movie, it's not. He has worked at it. The archival footage is glorious. It really puts you in the middle of the teen idol frenzy and then takes you into the Vegas years, his international tours and beyond. Watching him scroll through TikTok covers of Put Your Head on My Shoulder is worth the price of admission. There is even footage of Paul speaking kindly to his band. As you may recall, that at the dawn of the internet, audio leaked of Paul Anka berating his band. And as much as I love Paul Anka, it was fascinating, and I was there for it. Then, of course, Lorelai Gilmore named her dog Paul Anka. He did a cameo dream sequence on the Gilmore Girls, and his place in history was secured. There is too much Paul Anka lore to fit into one film, but included is the detail that he is Jason Bateman's son-in-law, who married his daughter after he had screamed at his band. Bold move, Jason. Paul Anka, His Way, is on HBO.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah, great talent. Survivor.
All right, who's ready for Susie Singer
Let's go.
Carter? She's got
There she
three
is.
names, and we're all about that. Susie Singer Carter is an American film director. She is best known for her work on My Mom and the Girl, Soul Surfer, Bratz, Cake and Dance Revolution, and her new movie is No Country for Old People. Welcome, Susie.
Hello. Thank you for having me again.
Yes, of course. Tell us who your mom was. I think that's important to know in advance of going into this film.
Oh, well, my mom was an incredible pistol. She was a singer. She started singing opera when she was 9 years old. She was a protege and had her own radio show when she was 16 in New York, and then came to LA, moved here, and got swooped up at Capitol Records and signed a deal at 20, and then decided that it wasn't the life for her, because at the time it was just not her, going on the road with band members who apparently were, it was kind of a scene, and she just didn't want to do it, and ended up marrying my dad, who was a revolutionary sound person in the industry, and built A&M Records. And she, was very happy. And that was the choice that she made. But she had a very, very interesting, rich life.
This movie is really important because the discussion is broadening about elder care in this country. Unlike other countries, we just sort of discard people over 65 years old, and we put them in these facilities with a lack of regulation. And I'll tell you, some of the stories you tell in the movie, and some that I witnessed, both of my parents were in for a period of time, not as long as your mom, in assisted living, and it is a nightmare. And you don't sleep at night wondering if they're getting the care that they deserve. Add to that the current set of circumstances where the cuts in Medicare and all of these supportive governmental trust funds that we're supposed to have for seniors are starting to get hacked away at. It's a really good time to see this movie and understand how important this issue is. Because you were an advocate not only for your mom, but for every elder person or everybody who wants to get old in the United States.
Exactly. I mean, when I started this documentary, this is not where I thought I would be doing anything about, nursing home reform. But when you see things that you realize are so egregious and so horrible and have been that way for decades, for 50 years, and you feel like maybe I can do something if I can tell a story that will touch people's hearts, then maybe they'll look at it, despite all of our ageism and ableism that we have in America. And actually, Fritz, it is permeating all around the world now. All of this individualistic kind of, way of living has definitely permeated other cultures where we used to say, oh, well, the Asian culture really revere their elders, but it's starting to happen everywhere. And because of that, that population isn't on anyone's radar. And there's a lot of, well, it's okay, a lot of validation. They've lived their life. They lived till 80, they lived till 90. It's okay. But it's not okay because they're being tortured. They're being...
And what you say is so 100% true. And I have some experience with the Asian culture because they sent me to the Olympics in 1988 to Seoul, Korea. And so I got to hang out there for 3 weeks and watch how people interact. And in many Asian countries, not just Korea, they hold the oldest people in the family in the highest esteem. They are the pinnacle of the pyramid of respect and really in power in the family. They're the people who are lauded, right? So I'll never forget this as long as I live, and I tell my own children this. We were in a deluge. It's a monsoonal weather pattern in South Korea, and I was out walking around, and there was a lot of rain, and they have big high curbs so that the water can drain down the streets very quickly. And I'll never forget this. I was at a stoplight, and there was a man, probably my age at the time, which was 55 or so, and his mom, who was obviously 85 or 90 years old, and he didn't want her to get her feet wet, so he had her drape her arms over his shoulders. He lifted his mom up and he carried her across the street so she wouldn't have to step in wet water. I almost cried because it was so touching. But I mean, it's indicative of how particularly Asian cultures hold adults in a way we don't, hold seniors to an esteem that we don't in this country. And your movie points that out.
Yeah, and I think that there's a whole business model that people should see this documentary, which is actually a three-part series on Amazon, and it really is important because it's hopefully we all grow old as equal opportunity, and in the way that the system is now, which it's been taken over by corporate in enterprise and all of the monies that you were talking about from our Centers of Medicare and Medicaid that we pay into, that money's being just extracted and tunneled into corporate organizations that have no transparency. So in fact, it's not even we don't really have a beef so much with the individual nursing homes. It's who they're owned by and how they're instructed to.
It's big company. Companies own 20, 30 retirement facilities and the lack of regulation. But a touching part of your movie, and I want to get this in before we have to go. There's one attorney in this movie that is such a sensitive character, the guy that helps with lawsuits against bed sores. I mean, that's his whole...
Mitosh, yeah.
His whole concentration, because bed sores really are just indicative of the lack of treatment these people are getting in these retirement communities. It's very eye-opening. It's not fun, but it's really an important piece of work.
It's so important what you did, Susie. Thank you so much for your work.
You're welcome. Thank you.
Right. You take care. Thanks for being with us. Bye-bye. You may know him as Julian Cooper on Law and Order SVU, or as Gary Ellison on Complications, or as Anthony Cooper on Lost, or as Frank Tilghman in Roadhouse, or as Roy DeSoto in Emergency. He is currently starring as Roy Moore in Paul Thomas Anderson's One Battle After Another. Please welcome Kevin Tighe. Now, you grew up in downtown L.A. and Pasadena, and your father was an actor, and you got started acting as a boy. How did the dramatic arts factor into your childhood and your household?
Well, I kind of grew up a little fast. That happens when you're around lots of grown-ups and you're a young person. And I'd say I was a little more introverted than I probably needed to be. And I guess that still holds. So probably I needed to be or I wouldn't. So anyway, here we are.
But I'll tell you, you hit the ground running, Kevin, because at 14, you were cast at the Pasadena Playhouse, which of all the West Coast theaters is one of the most prestigious organizations. And tell us about that. Tell us about your first role at the Pasadena Playhouse.
I was playing in the East Balcony. It was my first equity performance. I got my equity card. It was 1958, I think, yeah. And I played a young boy named Benny Monahan, and it was a play called Turquoise Alley. And I remember opening night that our leading lady had been hit by a car or something, had been injured, and yet still went on with the performance. So it was kind of an unusual situation to be in for an opening, but everything ran smoothly after that, and I followed that up. They cast me in Our Town, so that was on the main stage at the Pasadena Playhouse. So Pasadena Playhouse has always held a dear place for me in my heart. My first work was there.
Yeah, and although you've done innumerable television performances, many of them very memorable, you've got a deep background in theater as well, and studied with the great Stella Adler. That was in New York, correct?
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
Stella and Bobby Lewis, and yeah, she was terrific in terms of attacking a text, how to play Ibsen, how to get underneath the characters, and really do your research. And Bobby was a perfectionist in his own way. So
she had a lot of amazing students: Marlon Brando, Steve McQueen, Robert De Niro, Martin Sheen. Holy cow! You had a great alumni association there at the Stella Adler.
We had also Sandy Meisner was one of the great influences, mentors for many actors there. And, the whole theater under the
Stanislavski,
Harold Klarman, that we sort of inherited that. It was
the method, right? It was Stanislavski method.
Yeah, it was going inside a character, going inside the time in which he lived, being part of that, soaking that in, and getting to a place where you just sort of randomly did something and it was correct. You just kind of know what to do. Mm-hmm. You're given the character and you show up with it there.
Yeah, it's meant to become instinctive.
Yeah.
Right. So you were an extra in Yours, Mine, and Ours, and I'm wondering what that was like, because there were a lot of kids. Did you get to meet Lucille Ball or Henry Fonda?
I did. I was in a scene with her where she drops an eyelash into my Irish coffee. The scene never made it on film, but it was fun to work with her and to have her reaction to what I was doing. I just was probably overdoing it. She at one point she came up to me and she said, "Check your props, honey. Make sure your props are okay."
Oh,
yeah, she was a tough broad, but she probably had a heart of gold. I didn't get to know her that well, but the little that I did, she fit right into what I always thought of as a wonderful star and an actress.
Wow, what a wonderful memory to have. Do you want to get into Emergency next?
Yeah, I want to talk about the thing that put him on the map, which was Emergency, which was not only a fantastic show, sort of new at its time. Now they have lots of police and fire shows. But it was a very important show in the landscape of America and its understanding of the medical community. First, we'll talk about Emergency. It was on from 1972 to 1977 on NBC. He played Roy DeSoto. And talk about that show, Kevin.
Well, just before I got cast in that, I was at USC and I got my master's degree in performing arts, and went off to do a play. And before I did that, I played the part of it was Designed for Living, a Noel Coward play, and it was my first big role. And Maggie Smith was in it, and Robert, her husband, and it was a wonderful cast. And that was how I got started. Then I went from there to New York to England and worked at the Art Theater there and tried to get a little money together to stay, but I had to come back and try to find some work. And the casting agent over at Universal called me up, Bolin Wilson, and said there's a pilot that they're casting for the role of a fireman on Emergency, and they're doing a pilot. Well, I didn't know what a pilot was, and I said, well, okay, and I just assumed it was some sort of television show or some sort of movie of the week or something. And anyway, so I come and I enter the door of Jack Webb's office. And Jack, if you've ever met him, he has a deep, almost threatening voice. He's got a heart of gold, but he was
already iconic at that time from Dragnet.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. He was very iconic. And anyway, I read about 5 lines in an audition, and he said, "You're the kid. Hold on." And he called up Sid Sheinberg at Universal and said, "Sid, I got the kid for you. Come on down here." So Sid came down, and they checked me out, and then the next step was to give me a screen test. And so they got it together. Some guys, a crew that was still working in the back lot, and brought some of them over, and they photographed me, and I was on giving this improv, or not improv, but it could have been, but I was very nervous. It was an audition piece, and suddenly the door goes open in the back, and David Janssen comes down, and it's David Janssen's crew that's doing part of the crew that's doing the screen test. And he puts his arm around me, comes on stage and puts his arm around me and says, keep rolling, keep rolling. He says, this isn't a bunch of shit. He says, don't worry about it, just have a good time. So I kind of had a good time after that. He sort of like broke me up a bit, and
he relaxed you.
So without David Janssen, it would have never been possible.
Oh wow, what a story.
Funny. But that show, I was so fascinated, because I didn't know this at the time that it was a popular show, was very important because it was the first time the American viewing public got to see what they called pre-hospital medical care, stuff like CPR and those things, how the paramedics now take care of somebody before they get them into the hospital and save their lives. And so it was noted for how revolutionary it was.
Yeah, and during that time, I particularly when the show first started, about the first 2 or 3 seasons, when they were still trying to get paramedic programs all over the country, I'd gone back to different states because they'd fly you back and they'd put you up, and you could meet people and have some fun. And I loved to travel at that point, so I did a number of them. And one of the ones I did was in West Virginia, coal mining country, and they were having real problems with just trying to get to their emergencies. The people in the fields were, there's hollers, and it's not easy terrain to be driving over. Mm-hmm. And what they needed was a couple of helicopters to help. And anyway, I went back there a couple times and to try to help them. And in doing that, I got to know a few of the miners and started reading about mining history. Well, a couple of years later, when I was out of work and emergency was the past thing, there was a movie that I got to come in and read for, which was called Matewan by John Sayles.
Oh, right.
And it was about the mining country. It was about West Virginia. It was set in West Virginia, and here's where the skills of Stella Adler came in handy. Was that I went and auditioned for that piece, and I got the role. And I bring that up because, ironically, that was the place that when I went from being a television celebrity to being a character actor, which was really what I wanted to be.
I love John Sayles. I just watched Lone Star again, and I hadn't seen that movie in like 20 years. He was a great filmmaker, and that was a great story as well.
All sorts of integrity in everything he does. And,
and I mean, emergency was thought of in such an important light that they even put the uniforms in the Smithsonian Institute.
Yeah.
That's amazing.
Yeah, which was an honor for us. And they've got now the LA County Museum that's dedicated to the fire department. And they have various functions there. Plus they have all the history of emergency, all the engines and the props that we use, they're all there. It's well worth a gander if you're, living outside of LA and never been there particularly, or even if you have, drive on down there to the LA County Fire Department Museum, and you'll have a good time, I guarantee you.
Oh, that's so cool. So when you guys would get out the paddles to defibrillate and someone would yell clear, how did the person's chest jump into the air? Was that acting?
They just kind of did it as actors, It's the one thing about there were so many wonderful actors on our show that were under certain handicaps when it came to performance. Either the bands, and I can remember one of them where we wrapped the head around a fellow. He had head injury, and then it was his solo performance that they were going to cover now, and they came in on him, and as he's doing the scene, the bandages started to drop. They started to pull down. We had not tied them particularly right, and anyway, we had to redo that scene. But there were, we had on every show an advisor, a paramedic advisor, a member of the LA County Fire Department, And boy, they were there for every piece of film we did. Jim Page, and I mean all the people over at in L.A. and all the firemen. We had what was called advisors, paramedic advisors for the show, and everything we did was monitored, was looked at. It's not always easy to do that with a medical show because you don't want to hurt the actor. There are certain things that you have to cheat and, to get around.
Mm-hmm. I bet people applying for paramedic jobs peaked during your show. You know what I mean? People interested in doing the fireman / paramedic work.
Yeah, it was a new career.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think so. And it goes right on down the line to dispatchers. And I mean, to squads, to what are you going to transport the patient in? New revelations. It used to be whenever we would have a show where there was a new piece of equipment, we would, another fire station or someone interested in that would pick that up. And so there was a whole big business in, medical supplies, of course, too.
Wow. So your character was Roy DeSoto. Who was he? Tell me his character.
Well, I got the name from Jack Webb, and Jack had a penchant for naming characters after streets. That's DeSoto and Gage. I don't know if you.
Yeah, no, we know that street.
His DeSoto exit was where his home.
That would immediately take the zip out of your intro. Would be to tell people that you're named after a street.
But then the street in turn was named after a guy. So
yeah, there you go. And I guess the car came before the guy. But
yeah, you're a good point.
I did actually buy one during the show. I bought a '52 DeSoto, which was
that's funny.
The model we had.
You did your own stunts too, for the most part, didn't you, or wanted to? Did
you ever have to call in emergency assistance as a result of a stunt going awry?
No, I mean, there was one time that a fire got out of hand in Long Beach. Ooh. And it was just one of those things that I got out of hand. It scorched the building next to it. Oh. Lightly scorched, but we had an incredible demolitions team. All of them from Vietnam. I mean, because the show was going on. There was still Vietnam was in the air.
Wow.
And a lot of the equipment that we used, and a lot of it was premised, or a good deal of it premised on what was happening over in Vietnam. Or it had happened.
Mm-hmm.
So you wrote one episode and directed 4. How did you like being behind the camera?
Well, the one I wrote was just about 2 old blues guys. All Night Long, it was called, and it was just I wanted to write one the entire time I was on, and then the direct episodes those were the only episodes that I could direct were the first of each season, because I had to prep for each season. We had to prep, and I couldn't prep if I were directing, and I could only do it I could only do the starting one of each show. So I did each season. So I did 4 of them, and that was kind of where I was heading. I had my graduate degree in directing, and directed there and directed plays while we were doing film. I produced and directed about 4 or 5 plays.
Are you a better cook than Roy DeSoto?
No, I think Roy could outdo me. I hate to say it, but the guy, wicked beef bourguignon.
Did he learn how to pronounce it at some point?
That's something else again. I think that Johnny Gage would have had trouble with that.
Thanks for coming along down the media path, and however you have found your way to us, we would love for you to like and subscribe and give us a nice review, because as creators, it is our appointed duty to ask you to do that. You may also want to find us on Instagram and Blue Sky, where we are at Media Path Pod, and on Facebook, where our show page is Media Path Podcast, and our Facebook group is Media Path with Fritz and Wheezy Podcast Community. If you are listening to our show, we are also a video podcast on YouTube at Media Path Podcast. You can write to us at mediapathpodcast@gmail.com. My TikTok is Louise Palanker, where I post behind-the-scenes peeks and clips from the show. And Fritz's TikTok is Fritz Coleman Comedy. He posts stand-up clips and popular dance crazes. Our website is mediapathpodcast.com. There you can binge episodes and our spicy newsletter. Thank you so much. On with the rest of the show.
You've done so many roles in television, and movies, but you've said that the one role that seems to have stuck with people and gets the greatest attention when you're out in public was your role in Roadhouse with Patrick Swayze. Talk about that experience.
Well, you know, it's like the classic entertainment film, done really well, produced really well. That was Joel Silver, and good actors. You know, they cast good actors, smart, and it struck a chord with the American public. You know, there were so many people who would just say, "Well, loved you on Roadhouse." Hey, you know, and I got a lot of feedback from that. I want to think too that probably there was a little bit of emergency in that, because there's similar people. You know, those shows were all working class shows. Now that I think about it, that's pretty much what I played, or the ones that I liked to play were the working class people, and that's who Emergency watched. You know, either that or the little kids of them, you know, who they put in front of the TV, and it was an hour. It was an hour in a time when nobody made hour shows. They were making all half-hour shows, and except for movies of the week or something. We were one of the rare ones that.
Yeah, and you did movies of the week. I mean, Emergency was 129 episodes, and you also did 7 2-hour movies of the week, which is I can name something recently that's been done like that.
Yeah, but gosh, the business has changed so much. I mean, it's almost like overnight, you know, there was COVID, and then it all somewhat started again, but not in the same way. Things were never quite the same after COVID. I mean, it's an odd thing for all of us, I think.
Well, we're going to do a little game, if it's okay with you. The game is called IMDb Roulette. You have like almost 100 IMDb credits. So we're going to say the name of one of your credits, and you can tell us what if you can, who you played and what you remember about the experience of being on the set.
Okay.
Are you ready? We're going to start with The Graduate.
The Graduate. I was in the scene in the shower. I was taking a shower, and Dustin comes in to ask where if we've seen who was to be the bridegroom, the groom. And I peek out in the shower and say he's gone. He's gone to Santa Barbara. And then I proceeded to sing a song where Mike Nichols also sang it with me. and after they stopped filming, we had a break, and Mike came over to me and he said, "Your hair is not wet." And I said, no, I guess it's not. He says, "Well, you're probably going to lose a close-up." And I did.
Oh.
How was that experience, other than not having wet hair, working with Mike Nichols?
Well, it also was like Lucille Ball telling me to watch your props, honey. And Angela Lansbury being really gracious to a star, once upon a star, who was having trouble with his lines, and she just went right over there and said, "Hey, honey, you just take your time. We're here to get it, and that'll be it." And I've had a moment like that here on this last film I did, you know, where I was having a little trouble with the lines. You get to be a little older, and that can happen. And the show went on. Yeah,
the show went on. We're going to get to your current starring role in a second after we get through the game. But Fritz has number 2.
How about Bonanza?
Bonanza, it was Leo Penn, Sean Penn's dad.
What?
Who I've never met Sean, but I always liked because I loved his father. He was a really like one of a kind, powerful intellect, yet real down to earth, and hell of a good director. He loved the way he keep his sunglasses down on his chest on a string and bring them up. And but he gave me the first role. I playing a Confederate hippie that helps establish a commune on the Ponderosa.
Really?
Wow.
It was Richard Thomas who was in that one, and
really
starred in that one.
Oh wow!
This was before I went in the Army. I think, yeah.
Wow.
No, it was after I was in the Army. Yeah, get confused with that.
Yeah, the timelines. Okay, Newsies.
Newsies.
Yeah.
Oh, always wanted to be in a musical. Always. And it was the dastardly part. I loved the role. I loved playing it. I loved the kids and all their energy. That I could be in a movie with Robert Duvall. I actually was in 2 movies with him, but I never had a scene with him.
Oh.
So the other was in Geronimo. I just loved being in a Disney film, and it was classic. It was classic, go on the lot and, go down Goofy Street to Mickey Lane and hang a right. So,
And who was Snyder in Newsies?
Snyder was, he was the dark force, He was the guy that, from the place that was going to lock this kid up if he ever could get to him. And kid was just one step ahead of me, and I almost had him a number of times. And I love that elusive quality about the scenes and about the boy and about the doggedness of this guy that keeps trying to bust him and take him in.
Yeah.
And I was particularly interested in the fact that they made a Broadway show out of it, but they didn't. I didn't know if they had a Snyder, and the local high school here did Newsies. They did a high school production, which was the first time I ever saw it. And the kid who played me was, of course, he was in the show. So I went backstage after and went up to him. And I said, I just wanted to come and meet you. And he says, I said, I played the role when we did the film. And he had a blank look on his face, like reality and dream had just finally crisscrossed one another. He wasn't quite sure which one he was in.
Mind blown, that kid. Wow.
All right, so I thought this was a full circle moment. It seemed like it when I read about it, because you just did your latest movie with Leo DiCaprio, and you were also in What's Eating Gilbert Grape.
Yeah.
Tell us about that experience.
Well, I never had any scenes with Leo. My scenes were all with Johnny. Mm-hmm. We had our wonderful director. Oh yes, Lasse Hallström. Mm-hmm. Thank you. He was fabulous. I remember a scene when we were waiting to do a scene, and I was in a truck, and Johnny was next to me, and Lasse was just outside about to give us another, to get us into the film again. And they had to pause and, do something. And Sven Nykvist, who was the cameraman, fabulous guy, and loved country western music, he went over to help. And so Lasse said, have you ever had do you remember whether or not your mother nursed you when you were a child? And I hadn't a clue. I thought vaguely maybe his mother had, and he remembered.
Oh, wow.
I think Johnny remembered something about it. Anyway, it's an interesting, the things we talk about sometimes before we're...
It's an interesting question. Like there's a baby picture of me, my mom's holding me, and I've got my hand right on her boob. And I don't know why at that age I thought that was appropriate, but like at a certain age you're like, yeah, I don't think that's where you touch your mom. But yeah,
the lady who played the lead, the mother,
right?
The last day of filming, I was wrapped up, and I got a producer asked if she could come. She wanted to meet me, and so she came up and she had her sons with her, and I was particularly intrigued by her because she was so beautiful. She was wearing a lot of weight, but she was so beautiful. Mm-hmm. She was stunning, and I think it's it's in my imagination, which it very well could be, is that I seem to remember that in the novel the woman turned to food as a result of not being able to go with her date to the homecoming, something that happened where she something like that, but it was very poignant, and that those kind of moments are or something.
That's
Something
that's
that,
so
makes you
touching.
realize how great it is to be alive.
Oh, absolutely. The opportunities that you're given to, and you have so much meaning, you hold so much meaning for people, and then you honor that. That's beautiful. So let's talk school ties.
School ties.
Mm-hmm.
I was once brought in, first of all, to head the school. And I forget the actor who did it. He was superb. I couldn't have done it as well. Great casting. And both Sherry Lansing, and I'm trying to think of the gentleman who was, no, I shouldn't. He was producer, the CEO really at Warner's, I think. Was it no, it was Paramount. Anyway, School Ties, there were so many wonderful actors, young actors who later, I worked with a couple of them later on, and it was good to see that growth going, in all of them. Wonderful location, had great old cars. Remember that? Boy, it was a collection of really wonderful old cars that they brought in on that film.
Yeah, I think it was a meaningful film at the time. It had a lot to say.
It was. It had something to say, and I think it said it very well, and it was a good film. I was proud to be a part of it.
All right, you've got the left one.
So here's a show that sort of failed in the ratings at first, but developed this huge cult following later and gave birth to so many young stars, the great millennial stars, and that is Freaks and Geeks.
Well, I knew it was something special when I went to the it was the last night of the show. It was the last party, and remember Jim Carrey was there, and I'm a big Jim Carrey fan.
Mm-hmm.
I wanted in the worst way to go over there, but I was shy. I didn't know quite what to say, and he was always at moments when I was going to go over there, he was like with somebody else. But I got a kick out of that. I got a kick out of seeing him there, and with all those kids who really, I had great respect for him, and for good reason.
Where was he? Was he on the set, or was he at a function?
He was on the set. He came just as, and the party was on the set.
There was a rap party at the end of the last episode.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. And I just enjoyed being part of it. It was a noteworthy group. You knew it was going to go on. I was kind of amazed that they didn't, but there was, a stellar cast of young people, and if you were playing their parents, it could be equally so. Given.
Were you playing? Who did you play? Were you somebody's dad or a teacher?
Yeah, I was.
Jason Segel's dad, and he had that massive drum set in the garage.
That's right. He kept playing that damn thing over and over again. And I'm in the service. I've got a part to play. I've got a good haircut too. You better believe that. Anyway, it's fun to play the father.
All right, let's talk One Battle After Another, because that's going to be a film that is quoted from now until all eternity. And how did you get involved?
Cassandra, the casting lady, casting woman, young lady. Anyway, she worked with him and on many of his films. She called up and asked me. She asked if I would be interested in working on a film with Paul, and I said, "Well, yeah, sure." And she said, "Would you mind auditioning?" And I said, "Well, I don't know if I'm right for the role, in terms of auditioning." And she said, "Well, read it and see what you think." So I started reading it, and then I went up. I was in the middle of what had a real nice scene going, and I was questioning her. It was another role in the film that I first read for, or was going to read for, which was questioning Sean. But when I tried to do all those questions, I just couldn't. I was having trouble reading the lines. And that's because I have a very slow-moving disease called Parkinson's. Mm-hmm. I've had it for about 10 years. Mm-hmm. And it used to be that, just as a side angle, it used to be that I couldn't even audition for roles because I kept having to try to, the scene became always about trying to remember what the line was instead of playing the scene. So that's why I kind of drifted away. It's not only, because of the way that the business was run, it was just not, I was at a handicap. And so coming into this, I didn't want to be that way. So I said to her, I told her, Cassandra, I said, I've got Parkinson's, and there'll be times I won't remember things. Like just when we did this scene, words just I can't bring them down.
Right. You can't grasp
them.
them.
I know that happens to all older people.
Yeah.
Or to many of them, but this does it in a very particular way. You use a word, and there's no place you can go backwards to remember it because your memory isn't there. So it used to be where I'd go up a lot because I tried things on stage, for instance, and you find things and you don't always deliver the same performance all the time. You try to vary it. And I just couldn't, and I was having trouble auditioning even, because they wouldn't let you read from the script. They do now. But they didn't at that time. Anyway, make a long story shorter.
Those were great scenes in that movie, though, when you were there with the three guys and you were, sort of calculating
Well, they were. I said to her, or I just thought she said, well, let me talk to Paul and see what I can do. And I thought for sure, I didn't hear from them. I thought, no, came and went. Completely understand. She was a lovely lady. She really was. She stayed with me all the time. I would have never had that role if it wasn't for her. She was supportive. Anyway, she said, she got back to me. She called back and she said, we would like you to be in the film. I said, great. And she said, not for the role you read. This is another character. And I said, I'll do it. And I got there the first day of filming, and I had a lot to do. If you've seen the scene, it's a long scene, and I'm just reacting a lot in most of it. But what I had to deliver all the lines still off stage, and I couldn't remember the lines. And each time, I couldn't remember it. It went all day long, off and on, trying to remember. And I'm trying to pull as hard as I can, trying to get that line down. If I just get one word. So I'm just about at my wit's end. It's towards the end of the day. Everybody got their shot. So nobody was like, I was still there for them, still giving them everything I could, but I just couldn't give it with myself included that yet. Mm-hmm. So I was standing there, and Paul comes up to me, and whom I've never really met before. And we met kind of initially, but puts his arm around my shoulder and he says, don't you worry. We'll get this. You're going to be wonderful in this.
Oh.
He didn't tell me how to do it, but he imparted such a goodness, integrity that I seemed to just know what to do, what he wanted, and he was able to play around with that and make it even better. I was a lucky guy to have that role and to be given another shot.
And it was great, especially the one where Sean Penn is, getting drilled at the end. I mean, he was such an interesting character in that. And you told him that his father directed you in Bonanza? Did you have
I never met Sean.
Oh.
Yeah.
Yeah, his scene is in the Enclave.
One of his brothers, or his brother once, Chris Penn.
Yeah.
Who was a lovely guy.
Mm-hmm.
He was a good actor, too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I think that is the mark of a great director, to know what each performer requires. You just need a little extra grace, and he knows who you are. He knows what you're capable of doing, and he was willing to give you that grace, and you went for it. And it's beautiful. The results are beautiful. So congratulations.
Thank you.
It's a great film. You've also, and I don't know if this is because of your parents' situation or your grandparents or some family member, you've been involved in the hospice industry, and you were involved with Hospice of the Northwest. I thought that was very interesting. and you're one of those people who has used his skills for great good. Talk about that.
Well, my mother died, and she had hospice, but we didn't get to her soon enough. And that's what started my interest in it. Was I wanted people to because at that point, it was a little bit like paramedics in emergency. Hospice was, it has skull and crossbones on it. It was not about, you didn't hear about the treatment. You just heard about, people go there and they never come out again. Well, that's not true. People do graduate and people get better. And because of the excellent care, they live a little longer sometimes a lot longer.
Yeah.
But mostly they give palliative care and help steer a family in the right direction. It's an emotional time, and it's a wonderful service that people have. That's free to them. That is given to them by really kind of wonderful people who.
Oh man, I've met hospice nurses and palliative care nurses, and that's a calling. That's a very special emotional skill that people have that do that work for a living, because you're the last human that some people talk to, and it's just really interesting and a beautiful, beautiful career.
Well, it happened just at the time when I was having a hard time after emergency. I was enduring it because of the celebrity kind of quotient to it. I just didn't do well. I just couldn't do it well, and so I moved to the Northwest to a place where no one knew who I was really. I mean, later some people found out, but I mean, I was kept alone and lived on a river and met my wife and got married and brought my family up there, and so that was a post-emergency. Then into Mate One, into working with John and a couple with Even Out, and
So did you start the organization Hospice of the Northwest? I thought that was.
I was one of the 5 people. I was actually, there were 2 of us. A woman who had been with Della, who had been with them for they were a hospice unit up in Whatcom County, which is in Bellingham. This was Skagit County. They didn't have their own hospice, and so I was instrumental. I was one of the. It would be Della and I, and then when I quickly filled some other positions or asked people if they'd join us, and we got a board together of 6 people, really wonderful board, and that's how it all started.
Wow.
Well, you have had an astonishing career. The fun part of this job is reading up on people and learning things that you didn't know anything about. You taught at USC, and I've known some other people that have taught at USC, and they always love to brag about people who were in their classes, that they had some instinct were going to explode into some famous person. Did you have anybody in any of your classes at USC that had some success afterwards?
Oh, that's very true. There's a number of them, but the ones that come in mind first are John Ritter and Jack Bender.
Oh, wow.
Jack actually produced one of the producers on Lost. And John was a dear friend. I cast him in Our Town years ago with Sean Barbara Allen, good cast Ford Rainey and Ann Duran.
Yeah.
Did it up in Santa Barbara.
Oh.
And then, there were numerous people that came through whom because I was there for my graduate school, got my MFA. So I was there for just short of 2 years. And Diana Gibson, she didn't become famous, but she did it in her own way. Extremely talented writer and of musicals, and massive intellect. And there were Alan Hubbs, and I mean, I could go on and on. USC had an enormous impact on me. It was the people there, John Blankenship, and the people in the company, and the staff, and they were without. I wouldn't have been. Well, I don't think I'd be where I am without him.
It's still the pinnacle of film schools, and it's the prestigious place.
Well, Fritz, we have one more game. It's an IMDb roulette subgenre, Kevin, and it's called Emergency Guest Star Roulette. So we'll say the name of an emergency guest star, and let's see if you can remember them being on the show or, having had a conversation with them and gotten to know them a little bit. We'll start with number 1, Tony Dow.
Yeah, Tony, I remember him because Beaver.
Yeah.
And because he was such a great guy. And he lived
is.
up in Topanga. He lived in the canyon.
Mm-hmm.
I think he lived there for, years and years after, too.
Yep.
And I used to hear things about him, people who had come up to him or had met him and what a nice guy he was. So I remember him. I don't remember precisely the role, but I distinctly remember him being on the show.
Well, we can help you out with that. He played a motorcycle riding bandit who injures himself when he tries to take advantage of a destructive wildfire to score some stuff.
That's right. I remember now.
How about Cicely Tyson? What a gifted lady she was.
Well, she was mostly there in the hospital.
She played Mrs. Johnson, mother of the young football star, future St. Elsewhere star, Eric Laneville,
yeah.
who takes a savage hit in season 1 episode called Crash.
So I guess her son is injured.
There's Nick Nolte. Nick Nolte played an ambulance attendant.
Oh.
And John
Travolta. We've got him
Travolta.
We've got him further down our list, Kevin. We're going to get to him. I'm going to do number 3, Bobby Sherman.
Bobby Sherman. Yeah, I remember because he was a huge star, huge celebrity. Was on all those magazines. We were on a few of them. I felt like an idiot being on.
He became a real paramedic, too.
That's the thing, Fritz. He was so influenced by his appearance on the show and meeting and working with you guys. He played arrogant resident Dr. Ken Donaldson in season 3 episode Fools. Donaldson's smug ways with the paramedics and the patients, the fools in question, lead Dr. Brackett to order him to ride shotgun with Johnny and Roy for a day. The experience moved Sherman so much that he eventually became a real paramedic and sheriff's deputy for San Bernardino County. So you guys had a big influence on him.
Right.
Yeah.
All right, who you got, Fritz?
How about Mark Spitz, the great swimmer?
Mark because everybody was pretty excited to meet him, and he had all those medals.
Yeah.
Nice guy.
Yeah.
He plays Pete Barlow, whose pregnant wife Dora, played by Spitz's real-life wife Susie, accidentally suffers a gunshot wound.
No. Mm-hmm. All right. So thanks for helping her out. And now we have John Travolta.
John, trying to remember because I've met him a couple of times. I did a film with his wife, and I'll be damned if I can remember what that was.
Kelly Preston, was that his wife?
Other than that, he was watching the child while she was working. And,
well, he played a 16-year-old who tumbled down a ravine, resulting in a fractured leg and dislocated shoulder.
Oh, he was really young.
Yeah, he was young. Yeah.
Yeah, I met him. We had mutual friends in common during that time. So,
All right, Melissa Gilbert, who certainly went on to become a huge star. She played a little girl whose mother is screaming at her alcoholic father who has passed out.
And you comfort.
She had a nice long career. She did some wonderful work, and she was very gracious. Our paths would cross every now and then. She was just a sweetheart. It kind of felt a little like a daughter to me.
Oh, I love that.
She's lovely.
All right. Well, what else should we know? The film is still in theaters. Is it streaming? I watched it on YouTube for a small fee. But where is the film coming, to the best of your awareness?
I couldn't be in town to see it at the opening, and I didn't have I just didn't. By the time I learned about it, it was too late to be able to make reservations and all that. So I didn't get. I would have loved to have seen it with the crew.
Did they get any Golden Globe nominations?
They got 9. It's the most Golden Globes nominations.
Wow. And I'll tell you who was impressive in that, and I can't remember her name. She was the African-American female lead. I'd never seen her before. She was powerful.
The mom or the girl?
Yeah.
The girl, I guess.
The girl's fantastic.
Yeah. She's going to have a huge career, whoever she is.
You have seen the film, right, Kevin?
Yes, I've seen it 3 times. I saw it twice in regular format when there weren't any people there hardly, and I saw it in VistaVision when there were some people there. I would have liked to have seen it again, and will when there's more people there, because then you get the humor.
Exactly.
When first things start popping that are dark humor, no one's, once too few, they're just not going to get any laughs, and you're not going to get that participation from the audience.
Right.
That's really what one would hope, because it's there. And it's just increasing the number of people who watch it so that they're comfortable and having a good time.
And it's a collective experience. What were your initial thoughts when you saw everything put together in a finished film?
Well, I'm just, I'd say I was stunned. I mean, I thought I was going to just have a regular role. I mean, I did have a regular role, but it had a kind of a sock to it. Yeah. And it was set up by the wonderful actors that were in that room with me, too.
They're amazing. And, all of the topics you guys were talking about resonate in today's political environment, which I thought was fantastic.
Yeah, and I didn't see Benicio del Toro. God, wow. His seemingly effortless work belies someone who really does some nice in-depth stuff.
Yeah,
that's a well put.
Capability with everything he does. He really is. I mean, they're all wonderful actors in their own way. Yeah. I mean, Sean Penn, when he returns with that walk from being almost killed, that fucking walk is just amazing.
I know.
And then Leonardo, just the whole thing with the trying to get the right credentials to get through, and everybody, and she was, and the daughter. I can go on and on. I was like tossed around by everybody. I feel honored to be in the film. It's wonderful.
It's quite a piece of work.
I hope they do really well at the award show.
I think they will. Well, we want to thank you so much for being with us. I'm going to read our closing credits. We want to thank our guests, Kevin Tighe and Susie Singer Carter. Our team includes producer Dina Friedman, John Maddox, Mason Brown, Raf Rusak, Jordan Reyes, Haley Freight, and you. Our theme music is by me and John Maddox. I am Louise Palanker here with Fritz Coleman. Be well and wise, take good care of each other, and we will see you along the media path. Kevin, that was amazing.
It was an honor, Kevin. Thank you so much.
Oh, great.